Hi, welcome again. Just a minute, I'm going to start. Okay. Cast shadows. When an object blocks light, it casts a shadow. The light can come from any source, natural sunlight or indoor lighting. By adding shadows to your drawings, you create a sense of depth and your illustrations don't look so flat. Generally, the light source is assumed to come from overhead, especially for humor. Underlighting is reserved for drama, suspense, and horror. Note the cast shadow under the three round jewels in this crown. The overhang of this table top cast a shadow onto the chest of drawers underneath. Here you can see. The chin and head often cast a shadow on the neck as they block the light. Here you can see. During the running or walking motion, the front leg casts a shadow on the rear leg, causing it appears to recede. Is saying about this one. The girth of this character is exaggerated by adding shadows over the tops of the thighs. Here, changing plans. When you make a change in plan, a change of angle, you also create a change in value brightness. Take a look at 3 angled edge at the left. At the point at which it changes planes, it exhibits a shadow. Looks pretty crispy this way, doesn't it? For the box with 3 planes, one shadow is all that's needed to break up the monotony of the flat sides and give the shape a three-dimensional appearance. Indicating roundness, a few well-placed sketch lines will make round objects look rounder, as in this ball and mug. Keeping the light source consist, light from one source results in shadows that are all cast in the same direction. So in this example, the shadows should appear on the same edge on the tabletop and side of the glass. Using blocks of black. 6 out of every 7 comic strips appear in black and white. These are the dailies. Only the Sunday's strip is in color. Most magazines, spot cakes are all in newspaper. Editorial cartoons are also black and white. Your comic strip will be competing with many others on a page for the reader's attention. So anything you can do to create increase its visibility will be an asset to make your black and white cartoon stand out. And blocks of black. Nighttime silhouette versus daytime silhouette. You might think the house with the light shadows is the daytime silhouette, but the dark house with windows and glows reads as a night scene. The house that's totally in shadows read reads as the daytime silhouette. Alternative black with white. Don't allow your strip become so overrun with a black that it becomes green, and be careful not to place so too many blocks of black sides and side by side. You will start to lose the interior from an object. A, a better idea is to alternate blocks of black with blocks of white. Notice how clearly these clothing outfits read. From sketch to finished ink. Sometimes some artists use a non-photo blue pencil to make an initial sketch. The advantage to this pencil is that it doesn't reproduce when photocopied. You can ink over it and only the ink lines will show up in photocopy. However, it feels waxy, as if you are drawing with a candlestick, and it doesn't erase. Other artists, yours truly among them, prefer sketching with her regular pencils and then tracing the final copy on a new pieces of paper in ink. Some sketch lightly in pencils, draw directly over it with ink, and then erase the pencils so that only the ink lines remain. Sketch. This is the initial pencil sketch. Final ink, no black. Even though the final ink is a good spirited cartoon, it looks empty without blocks of blacks and therefore lacks impact. It would get lost on the comics page, competing against other strips. Final ink with black. Now the strip really pops. Note that there is no area to blacken in the second panel, so I create an area by drawing an arcing shadow behind the boy. This causes his head to come forward and the background to recede. In addition, I alternate blocks of blacks between both kids' clothing and hair. Note the daytime silhouette of this house as well. Designing a panel, do's and don'ts. Do leave more room in front of the character's head than in back of it. There should also be more space in the direction of the character is facing. Do place character do place characters in the middle of the panel when they are facing the reader. Do lay out action in panel in the direction that people read from the left to right. Here the duck on the left is causing the action and the snake on the right is reacting it left to right. Do stagger speech balloons when you have more than one in panel. Don't use panel lines as well, floors or ceiling. Don't cut off your character's head with panel line. Don't cut your characters off at the feet. Don't make your character too big, they will look like giants. Designing speech balloons. There are many options when choosing speech balloon styles. You don't have to marry it to one approach. It's best to mix of them. Put the speech balloon near the top of the panel, slightly to the left or the right. This is the standard. You can't grow with this approach. Use the top and the side of the panel to cut off the speech balloon. With this approach, you will increase the space with the balloon and therefore the amount of words you can put inside. Remember this one when you have got a lot of dialogue. On the left side, this is the same as the example at the top right with the top and side panel lines eliminated. It's a pleasing look. Bump the balloon into the panel and eliminate the lines where they touch. This is a nifty look. Two large balloons in a panel feel more comfortable if they overlap each other, but don't leave off the top panel's lines with these styles. It looks weird and it makes me mad. Never let the balloons touch each other without overlapping. This also gets me steamed. Increasing the lines of these pitch balloons. Let's say you have got some dialogue that you just can't edit down without destroying the gag. You will need a whooper of a speech balloon, but you don't want it to overwhelm the panel of drawing. What would you do? Here are the three approaches recommended. Increase the size of the balloon and let the characters overlap them. Lower the characters in the panel so that the balloon have and take up more room. Length and size of the panel. This allows the balloons to accommodate more words about necessitating pushing the balloons halfway down the page and squeezing out the characters. Using balloons and connectors. Adding connectors between balloons is a good way to show a back and forth conversation within a single panel. It has a nice symmetrical look. However, if the panel starts to get cluttered with words, it doesn't matter how well you have laid everything out. It's better to continue on another panel. Note the sequence in which connected balloons are always read. Top line left, right, next line left to right, and so on. Layered balloons. If often more common to use layered speech balloons rather than connectors to convey back and forth conversation. The advantage to this is that the order in which the words are being spoken is clearer than it with connectors. Note, be sure to stagger the balloons. You don't want them to appear as one lump. Do you serve non-fat? You have got a carrot juice. No, just burger and fries. Good at least my wife can't see I didn't try. Double balloons. When one character has two separate ideas, you can illustrate both in a number of different ways. Compare this for samples. I agree. But once again, thought. Use two separate balloons for the two ideas. Partially meld the two speech balloons with the same effect. I agree. But one second thought. Note the placement. Don't position a large balloon between two characters who are having a conversation. It looks like a blockade. I agree. But once again thought. Relocate the balloons instead and reduce the distance between the characters. I agree, but once again thought. Rules about speech balloons for animals. Surprised that there are rules for this. Maybe you are one of those people who doesn't think the rule apply to him, who tears the tags of mattresses, who turns up the car radio when driving through hospital zones. I have got your number, fella. Anyway, there are rules when it comes to cartoons, animals talking to one another. You can, of course, break these rules, but conversation goes as follows. All animal comic strips. For a strip in which all the characters are animal, they all talk just like human characters with regular speech balloon. Strips with animals and people. For comic strips in which people have pets and the animals think to people, the people in thoughts balloon. Scalp shaped balloons with bubbles that travels towards the characters who is having the thoughts. While the people speak to the animals in regular speech balloons, the people cannot hear what the animals are saying in the thought balloons, but the animals can hear what the people say in the regular speech balloons. Animals can also address other animals as well as readers in thought balloons, and they can hear other animals thought balloons. This makes the animals seem smarter than the people. People can't hear people can't hear what animals are thinking in their thought balloons. Animals can hear one another's thoughts balloon. Animals can address the reader in thoughts balloon. Strip with adults and babies. Babies use thought balloons in the same way that animals do when they interact with people. Adults cannot hear a baby's thought balloon. Sound effects and panels. A great tool to use for pacing is a panel that's entirely taken up by a sound effect. Sound effects such as thud, blam, and kaboom are always written all in capital letters for emphasize as in every aspects of cartooning. There are effective and not so effective technique. Consider the following. You actually like this approach. Smacks some sense into yourselves. This doesn't have nearly enough impact. The panel is mainly empty space. Better note that the alternative title of these letters. This is a frequent approach and is adequate, but it's like wearing one brown sock and one black sock to a pretty till. It will get you there, but not in style. This is the mother of all sound effects panels. There are not no daylight in these panels. The third takes up all the space. Now that you see how effective this approach is, you may want to join me in mocking and scoffing, scoffing at anyone who still prefers the first method. Combining sounds, effects, and pictures. When you combine pictures with sound effects, remember two things: style and letters, and don't be timid about making the letters big. Location, and location. School library. How important are background drawings? Very. But they shouldn't look very important. In drama, the background is used to add atmosphere, tone, and tension to a scene. For example, a broken water watchtower, an abandoned building, or a broken window would all enhance a dramatic scene. In comedy, however, if your readers are focusing on the background, you have lost them. Goodbye. Go home. Take that job as an insurance claims adjuster. Just pick up and get out of town. The exceptions of this is fantasy, including science fictions, in which the backgrounds serve as reminders for readers to suspend disbelief. For comic strips, humorous backgrounds are key to stabilizing a scene. They tell readers where they are so that you don't have to waste a lot of dialogue explaining this. Funny backgrounds should be flat, similar, simple, symmetrical, and cheerful. Choosing the right location. Drawing the background Drawing the backgrounds is not as difficult as figuring out which backgrounds to draw. Choosing the right background is just as important as casting a new character. You are introducing readers to your world. If they like it, they are apt to return. The first step is choosing and stabilizing the location that will recur most frequently in your strip. In a kids strip, for example, you have got to figure out where the kid will appear the most. Basically, it will be at home, at school. Then you should decide where at home and where at school your characters will be primarily. The locations should be placed to and from which other characters can easily go, because you will need the other characters to ignite the humor. So your characters in kid places doing kid things such as schoolwork, eating, sleeping, playing, and talking. Expand your character's world. If your main character's primary location is your school, come up with a specific sites within the school besides just the classroom. The classroom may be the home base, but there are also always school halfway, bike racks, and gym class and gym uniforms are always funny. Gym teachers are also funny when they are not being psychotic. You should focus on repeating 3 or 4 main locations and sprinkle the other places in occasionally. Familiarity is more important than variety. A comic strip is like a comfortable old slipper. If you rarely repeat the same location, readers will never get comfortable with your strip. Not also that your location must be conductive to talkative and or action. In a kid strip, the classroom and the bedroom are good for both. Popular panel configuration for daily strip. As long as the measurements of your comic strip total, you can draw the individual panels in any dimensions you like. This is the traditional 4 panel. This is the traditional 4 panel setup. This is the traditional 3 panel setup. A borderless middle panel offer a nice variation. Here is the first panel holds big visual leading up to the succinct punchline in the smaller second panel. For a change of piece, the middle try 2 small panels surrounded by large panels. 5 or more panels is rare, but small dialogues requires it. In this case, forget about the showing any gestures or actions within the panels. There just is not any room. Border panels alternating with borderless panels creating a nice look. The long strip is almost always a visual gag. Eliminating panel. When sequence doesn't change location and there are not any time cuts, it's more pleasing to eliminate the dividing panels altogether. Readers will still follow the sequence and the strip will exude a feeling of freedom and energy that panels and tend to cut certain. In addition, this open quality will stand out against the other daily strip on the comic pages. Everything you need to know to be a professional cartoonist. So you want to make the jump from aspiring to professional. You want to be published. To do this, you can make submission after submissions, hoping for the best, or you can follow a few simple suggestions that will immediately distinguish you from novices. A professional editor can spot an amateur immediately. It's the person who submit the wrong amount of strips in the wrong size, in the wrong format, and always in the fancy binder with a big fat copyright warning on the cover. Of course, you don't want your work to be published just one time. You want it continue be published. To do this, you will need to know a few tricks such as dealing with writers blocks, meeting deadlines, and working with a partner. Can you learn these things over time by yourself? Absolutely. However, the mistakes you could make along the way could cost you. It could cost you your strip. In fact, not to worry. This section of this book is designed to put you in serious contention in editors' minds and to give you the staying power. Newspaper demographics. You might think the biggest audience for comics is children. Wrong, it's adult. More adults read comics than kids. So there is got to be something in these strips for them. Keep that in mind When you create your comics, your Peanuts is popular with children, but it's adults who get all these sigh sophisticated humor. Remember Lucky with the her storefront psychiatric office. How many 8 years old do you think got that? The children got the individual punchlines, but it was the adults who were amused by the Lemond Stand psychiatric's office. Even Garfield, which is a kid-oriented, displays the mean-spirikedness of adult comedy with a goody amount of droll humor sprinkled in. Since you can't appeal to every readers with the same strip newspaper, syndicates try to busy strips that appeal to specific reader markets. These marks include children, women, young professionals, and the middle class, parents, politically aware, senior citizens. This is not a popular group. Most, but not all, strips have failed trying to rely on this significant senior readership. Ethnic groups, teenagers, and college students. Family strips. Due to the broad cross the section of the markets to which it appeals, the family comic strips has consistently been the most popular genre. In one strip you have got men, women, children, and or teenagers, and even a pet. Everyone has a family, so the strip is bound to relate to somebody. A family strip cuts a wider path across the marketplace. However, it's also a well traveled path to be successful. So if you have got to bring something really fresh to the picture, the challenge is deciding what type of family to create. For example, it is it neurotic, how and to what a degree, on whom does the strip focus, the son on the son, daughter, the mother, or the father? You have got to ask yourselves these really tough questions.